Uncertainty avoidance refers to how members of a society deal with uncertainty, and masculinity and femininity, that is referred to how men and women roles are divided in a society. But how can we use these ideas into business? There's one definition from Solomon that I really like it. It says that culture are the lenses through which people see products and services. Actually, it means that we are not that objective when we are qualifying products. We have some kind of lenses, and we use, in this case, culture. So we are biased. Besides that, my laboratory has been doing a lot of research in the area, and they found, for example, that customer satisfaction and uncertainty avoidance have a negative correlation, and also that the individualism and customer satisfaction have a positive correlation. Now let's talk about happiness, which is really a well-known concept. Substantially, it's just an emotional experience, according to Gilbert, one professor from Harvard, and he defines it as what humans call as anything that pleases. For example, going to the museum with your daughter, or having a chocolate. Anything that pleases you, that brings you happiness. So substantially, it's anything that brings you happiness. This brings us also to another important concept, which is called the hedonic treadmill, that says that neither raising prosperity nor having severe misfortune will affect permanently your happiness. So our levels of happiness remain constant our whole life. They don't change that much. Now let's combine both concepts and use it into one framework. First, let's say that happiness is something inherited, is innate, and derives mainly from our genes. Around 50% comes from our genes, and it's referred to, for example, if we have an easygoing personality, how well we deal with the stress. 8% comes with some circumstantial situations, like if you are married, or how much money you have, or your religion, and the rest to the daily experiences that we face. In the case of culture, it's actually a collective phenomenon, and it's something that we share with other people that are in our environment, and it's something that we learn. For example, Sado, the tea ceremony, has a lot of meaning in this society, in Japan, but doesn't have the same meaning in Western society. So it's something that you actually learn in here, and it's not something that you're born with, and it's very representative of this culture. Then, in the case of happiness, we can say that also deals with the universality of emotions to some innate neurophysiological programs. For example, when we feel joy, we inherently feel the need to smile. But these reactions, neurophysical programs, actually are shaped by our culture. So the emotional experience may be universal, but is culturally varied. For example, pride is less experienced in Asia than in Europe. And the normative social behavior and these cultural models shape the desirability of certain emotions. For example, feeling compassion. We can also say, in this case, that many researchers, Taleb and others, have said that there is two main systems working in our brains. One is the experiential system, which is emotions, is something effortless, faster. We are not aware that we are using it. And the other, it is the cognitive system, which is related with thinking. It's effortful, it's sequential, takes time. So we can say that happiness is something subjective, and it's a response from this experiential system. And culture is something that we learn through a really long process of enculturation since we are children. So it's mainly an output of the cognitive system. The purpose of this research is basically to study the effect of post-purchase of happiness on post-purchase evaluation, the direct and the indirect effect, and the mediation effect. The hypothesis first is that happiness has a positive effect on customer satisfaction, and hypothesis two is happiness has a positive effect on customer satisfaction determinants. In this case, perceived quality, perceived value, and quality expectations. So, according to Jenner, this psychologist has found that people with higher happiness tend to feel more positively the neutral events. It means that our happiness affects our perception of neutral events. And if we consider a neutral event, the post-purchase evaluation of like customer satisfaction, perceived quality, and perceived value, our happiness will affect these things. So we say that happiness has a positive effect in customer satisfaction and its determinants. The other one, that happiness has a positive effect on quality expectations, related with one theory from Schwartz in 2005. And he has found that positive previous experience that we have with a service or a product elevates our hedonic point. So once we try something good, we feel happier. But of course, this also has an effect in our standard of acceptability. It means once we try something good, we want to keep trying better things. So it's improvement in the society. We expect better things. So our predictions of future product performance are going to increase. So we expect that happiness will have a positive effect on quality expectations. The third hypothesis is that happiness has a stronger effect than culture on customer satisfaction. As I said before, happiness comes from the experiential system, and culture comes from the cognitive system. So there's some processes called the heuristics that work in the experiential system that are like brain shortcuts, faster the response. So the brain only uses certain information to take a decision. In this case, we expect that once the consumer is doing an evaluation, post-purchase evaluation, like customer satisfaction, the effect of these heuristics is going to be quite strong. But in the case of culture, because it comes from the cognitive system, we are expecting that a consumer will use more information, more things related with culture, something that it learned, so the effect is expected to be weaker. The fourth hypothesis is that culture has a stronger effect on happiness than on customer satisfaction. We say this because culture is related with a positive attitude towards life. So happiness is affected by our daily experiences, and then we expect a strong effect from culture to happiness. But in the case of customer satisfaction, we expect a weak effect because culture has the absence of technical features. It's not related with utilitarian features of the product or service. So we're expecting a weak effect on customer satisfaction. The fifth hypothesis related with culture has a stronger effect on pre-purchase expectations than on customer satisfaction. In this case, we use the theory of Oliver. According to him, the needs, desires, and values of a person are present before purchasing something in pre-purchase processes. So we basically search for products or services that are congruent or accordingly to our needs, values, and services. And according to that, we make a choice. So we expect that culture will have an effect on pre-purchase expectations. So, as I said before, in this case, culture will have a strong effect on these pre-purchase expectations because it's related with socially good product attributes for the product selection. But in the case of customer satisfaction, will be weak, expecting a weak correlation because it's socially good response for product evaluation, for purchase evaluation. Finally, that happiness and quality expectations mediate the effect of culture on customer satisfaction. In this case, as I said before, culture is related with a positive attitude towards life. So when, in the case of the mediation, happiness will be the application of that positivity learned by culture on customer satisfaction. In this case, it is a particular psychological process that is working. It's called the adaptive unconscious, that has been studied by Gladwell. And he says that the cognitive system, or in this case, unconsciously starts to adapt many things that it learns without knowing it, to use it later. So we expect that culture will be used by our adaptive unconscious and will become part of the experiential system for happiness. Then when we will start to use or evaluate products and services, we will use heuristics and culture will be already included. So we will mediate the effect by happiness. The methodology, how we did this. Initially, we used the in-house laboratory survey adaptation. We make an adaptation of that questionnaire. Basically, I took the questionnaire to Bolivia and I translated it to Spanish. We measured 10 industries, in this case 6 service industries and 4 product industries. In the case of culture, we measure uncertainty avoidance and individuality through 5 Eaton scores. In the case of happiness, we use basically one question: what is your level of happiness? 1 to 10 scale. And in the case of customer satisfaction, as I said before, we measure for different products. And we basically ask what is your overall satisfaction for this product or service in 1 to 10 scale. Then we make the questionnaire in many places. In this case, is when I took the questionnaire last year to Bolivia. I took it in 3 cities, in Cochabamba, Santa Cruz, and La Paz, the capital. And this is in my city, this is in the capital. And also the questionnaire has been performed in other countries, in Japan, in China, in Thailand, in France, and USA, besides Bolivia. The results that we had, initially you can see in here the distribution of men and women. It is quite good distribution. We had in the end a sample of 3,743 questionnaires. Most of the women come from, in the case of Thailand, and most of the male respondents were from Japan. The age groups of the overall sample, we have around 54% were from 20 to 29 years old. And the occupation, most of them were students, and followed by employees commercial and employee technical. In the case of the variables that we were interested in measuring for our research, as you can see here, this is the house order of customer satisfaction from different countries. Initially USA, then Bolivia, and the last positions were Japan and China. As you can see here, initially there are some inconsistencies because Thailand, for example, has higher